What are some of the biggest myths that people believe about negotiations?
You know, there's this thing out there called the yes momentum or momentum selling, where you get people to say yes to the little things. Each one is known as a micro agreement or a tied down. And then consequently, you can get them to say yes to the big thing because you got them tied down. You got these micro agreements. Well, that's really bad. First of all, yes is not agreement. Yes is almost always counterfeit yes. There are three kinds of yeses: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. People get started on this yes momentum nonsense, I would imagine. Let's say they were failing entirely, they're not making any deals. If you were a student in a class, you'd be getting an F. And somebody turns you on to the yes momentum, and suddenly you go from being an F student to a D student. Or maybe you even become a C student. You look at the distance that you improved, and you're like, wow, I was failing before, now I'm not failing. Now I might even be doing well enough to not get fired. Because if you're a C student at a college, you're gonna make your grade point, you're not gonna get kicked out. You just made the minimum. However, from your perspective, you don't understand that you are nowhere near a B student or even an A student. So many people have been hustled with the yes momentum that it immediately makes people feel concerned. You know, if you're trying to get me to say yes to something, where's this going? Where's this taking me? Every group that I speak to, I do a lot of keynote speeches, and I'll say to them, all right, so you pick up the phone, and the voice on the other end of the phone says, have you got a few minutes to talk? What's your gut reaction? And everybody in the room says, concerned. Or some people even say, no, well, this was just a simple yes. Have you got a few minutes to talk? And everybody's instantaneous reaction is to be concerned. So if that's the case, whenever you try to get somebody to say yes to something, it creates tension, it creates concern, it hurts your relationship, it makes them hold back information. So if you're learning a black swan method, we teach you how to get out of yes and get into actual agreement that can be implemented. So the first thing is thou shalt not covet yes, because you think you got a yes, you do not have a deal, and you're going to wonder what happened afterwards.
I'd like to ask you a little bit more about this because I think from my observation, there's a big sales culture out there that teaches people, salespeople in particular, that this is the way that you get to yes. And you get these micro agreements, these little commitments that are happening. And we, having been perpetrated on this sales technique, have grown an allergic reaction to this. So much so that this is a kind of funny story. Several years ago, my wife and I are driving a car and we're pulling up in Venice, and this random guy walking the street is trying to pick up my wife in my own car, and he asks her, what is your name? So he asked her a question she couldn't say no to, but instead of saying her name, she's like, no. And I just smiled like, my wife is brutal. You've talked about this before, about our unhealthy addiction to yes.
Yeah.
And when I talk to salespeople, they talk about listening with happy ears. And my audience is mostly people in the creative space, right?
Right.
And so they're frustrated because they thought they had a deal. And then they walked away and like the clients ghosted on me because you're listening for something. You want the deal so bad that you're going to engineer or construct the conversation so that you can get the yes because you're afraid of rejection. So I love your approach because it means that we can actually embrace I think you call it like a tactical no, which is better than 5 yeses, and asking questions in the no.
I'm going to back up just a little to what you said. You know, the happy ears, we thought we had a deal and then ghosted us. We teach something called the favorite of the fool or proof of life. There's pretty good data out there that at least 20% of the time you're being used for a competing bid, due diligence, or free consulting. A lot of sales books realize that that's true. And I can't remember the name of the book I was reading the other day, but they teach salespeople to say, are we the vendor of choice? Now, the idea is you're trying to find out whether or not you're the favorite or the fool. Are you due diligence? Are you free consulting? Are you the fool in the game? If you don't know who the fool in the game is, it's probably you. But notice that question is a yes-oriented question. Are we the vendor of choice? You're going to get an answer to yes, no matter what. If you are the vendor of choice, they're going to say yes, and it really hasn't taught you anything. But if you're not the vendor of choice, they're never gonna say no. Like, they would be stupid to say no to you under those circumstances. If someone's been playing you, either accidentally or on purpose, for a while, and you say, hey, listen, are you playing me? They're not gonna admit to that. It's like asking a liar, are you lying to me? That dude is not gonna tell you. The happy ears thing is a real problem, and there's a lot of issues that even extend beyond the problems there are with yes. So that answered a question that you didn't ask.
Can I ask you, are you hearing a chime?
Yeah.
I'm hearing a chime. I'm not sure it's
sorry.
on my end or is it on your end? My audio engineer is going to freak out later. It's like, Chris, we
tell
can't
your audio
that.
engineer that there's a ding every time I say something good.
We understand this. When clients have a choice and they have many vendors they can choose from, it's important to know where we stand. So if people ask, am I the vendor of choice? You're not going to get an honest answer because people are polite. They're not going to say this. How would somebody ask that question to see like where they stand in terms of like what the clients are considering.
One great thing is, and I had a salesperson say this to me once. He said, say the client on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the number, that percentage chance that we're going to get the deal? That's a what question causes people to stop and think in their tracks. It's not so much what the answer is, it's how quickly they answer. Like if you're the favorite, they're going to go, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. They're going to immediately give you a very high number. That question will catch them off guard enough that if they got to think about it, Houston, we have a problem.
This goes into a concept that I heard you talk about before. Like there's one way to tell the truth. It's very easy to tell the truth. There's many ways to lie to you. And so that time to think gives them, it should give you pause because you're clearly not the one.
Yeah, if there's hesitation there, right? But if they should go, wow, 9, 10, or if they go, why 10? Of course 10. Like all that hesitation in there and trying to decide, do I tell them the truth? How do I peg this number? How am I going to be convincing? That sort of plays into another one of the skills, which is dynamic silence. You shut up. Now, what do you do while you shut up? You go to gather data with your eyes. Dynamic silence is the opportunity for you to actually look at the other person and read what's going on their face. Their face is going to be a direct reflection of what's going on in their brain. Now, what if there's no reaction at all? They have taught themselves to think with a blank face, which means they're filtering, they're considering, how do you react? The simple label seems like there's some stuff going through your mind right now. Is the label for the blank stare that you get on your face or that they get on their face while you're gathering data. There's a massive amount of information there for you to start soaking up visually from the very beginning.
So in a situation going back to that one where you realize all of a sudden you're clearly not the favorite, there's the long pause, there's the stammering. What are we supposed to do? Do we give up or do we ask other kinds of questions? How do we respond?
Where do we go from here? How do we get back to Earth without getting killed, right? All right, so you got to understand now you got a new landing spot. Your new landing point is to position yourself for when they do need you. There's something that we currently refer to as the Oprah Rule, which is the last impression is a lasting impression. As a company and as a person, I want long-term relationships of prosperity with everybody that I deal with. That deal might not be now. I want you to know that when we are a good fit, that I'd be happy to do business with you. When you're ready to do business with me, I want to be a long-term partner where we both prosper. And I can accept that you're not ready right now. So what are the steps to get to that point so that the lasting impression is of someone that will always be there for you when you're serious about doing business with me? I would probably say it seems like you're still shopping around. It seems like you're still in the information gathering phase. It seems like you got somebody else you really want to do business with. Each one of these labels is designed as a diagnostic to trigger a response both verbally and visually, for you to get a feel, for you to let your gut instinct to start making an assessment of where we are, and then say, look, it sounds like right now you're not ready to do business with us, and there's a really good chance that you don't trust me enough for me to be your trusted advisor. I want you to know I'd love to do business with you, and here's what a great deal with me would look like. I never want there to be any doubt in anybody's mind as to what a great deal looks like to me. That's the best possible position I can leave myself in with you for a profitable deal. I'm not going to spin my wheels now, but when we got traction, this is what that traction is going to look like. And then we end the interaction. If someone is intentionally playing you, this is very predatory behavior. They're going to try to keep you in the interaction because they want more information from you. They may often get very angry with you. They may call you names. We teach this methodology for residential real estate agents all the time. I teach it with a guy named Steve Shull. We got a book out called The Full Fee Agent. We teach real estate agents to not make listing presentations. It scares the hell out. Listing presentation is a due diligence process. And nobody's listing presentation is any different than anybody else's. One of his clients walked away from a prospect. They had a potential client. They said, when we're your trusted advisor, we're happy to outline our marketing plan for you. But until we're a trusted advisor, we think you should go with the person that you trust. And a potential client emailed them back and said, just because you wouldn't give us this presentation, we have crossed you off our list. Now that's a very predatory move. And it's a complete confirmation that they were being played because the predator will become angry with the victim for escaping. And if you ever need confirmation that they were playing you, that's when they're vindictive because you refuse to continue to be played.
So that's a client that you don't ever want to work with anyways, right? So it's not a loss for you at that point.
Not only do you never want to work with those people because you know they're vindictive, but it's also complete confirmation of your gut instinct. They failed. They were using you for free consulting. It doesn't happen often, but it happens enough that it's just, there's something called the drama triangle, which gives a lot of insight into manipulative behavior. The 3 points of the triangle, the rescuer, the persecutor, and the victim. The persecutor, the person who wants to manipulate, moves back and forth on the triangle between victim and persecutor freely just to keep you off balance. And when you start seeing persecuting behavior, that's a hallmark of the manipulative, predatory human being.
You said a lot there. Allow me to quickly just play back what I heard. Because you're moving so fast, Chris, and I was thinking our audience are going to drive off the road. Like, let me try and keep up with what Chris is saying, because you're dropping a lot of things here.
They should listen to this interview more than once.
I sure hope they do. All right, so when you're in a conversation and you know that there are multiple bids going on, instead of asking, are we the vendor of choice, ask a what question, like on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say is our percentage of getting the job? And then listen to what they say. If there's hesitation, that's telling you you're probably not the vendor of choice. And what you want to do is to demonstrate emotional intelligence, empathy, and self-awareness by understanding that you're not the right choice right now for a number of different reasons. And you could label those things by saying it sounds like, and you follow up with a series of it sounds like statements. And then you play the high road. I think you exit with some grace and some dignity, and you establish a potential for a relationship down the line. And I love the way that you think about this, because unfortunately, I think a lot of people in my community and just in sales in general, they're so desperate for the sale right now that they'll do anything to get that sale in the moment. And they're not really thinking like it's much better to have a client long term. And so if things don't work out in this instance with whoever they chose, at least you're like ending on a very high note, and there's a probability that they would reach out to you again on more favorable terms next time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You have to maximize the likelihood that they'll come looking for you when whoever they're doing business with has failed them.